Stir, stir, bubble, bubble. I've got a request if it's not too much trouble. I'd like a new trick-taking game to explore. Something that's good at 2, 3, and 4. Minasan konnichiwa and welcome to the Board Game Dojo's Import or Not series, where we go over games from East Asia and let you know if they're worth your hard-earned money to import or not. Today, we are going over Cauldron 15, a game designed by Nagian, and it plays from 2 to 5 players. In this video, we are going to go over how to play as well as our thoughts on this game. So let me get it set up and let's start the video by showing you how to play this game. Cauldron 15 is a game that has 5 suits, or 5 colors, depending on what you like to call it, that range from value from 0 to 7. Cauldron 15 is a must-follow game, meaning that whatever the starting player plays, the other players must play of the same color or suit if they have it. But if they don't, then they can play anything they want. So let's say that the starting player plays a purple. Then the next player looks at their hand and goes, okay, what card can I play? Because it's a must-follow game, I need to play this purple. But then the player afterwards looks at their hand and they don't have a purple. So therefore, they can play whatever they want. Now at the start of the round, you will draw a trump card. So let's say it's this one for this round. So if this player wants to win the trick, because they can't play the purple, they can play this one and win the trick because they are playing in the same suit as the trump card. Now, if that's all this game had to offer, there wouldn't be a whole lot there. It'd be pretty boring, actually. But this game has something else up its sleeve. You see, it's called Cauldron 15 for a reason. That 15 right there is a number you're going to have to remember because it's going to come up again and again. One reason is because as you're playing cards to the middle of the table, you're going to be summing them up as you go. If everybody plays their cards and the sum of the values of the cards in the middle of the table is less than 15, then whoever played the highest card wins. Standard trick-taking rule right there. But if somebody plays a card and it makes the values in the middle equal exactly 15 or go over 15, then that person gets the trick. Let me show you that and show you what they win. Let's say we're playing a 4-player game, with this being player 1, player 2, player 3, player 4, and then this being the trump card for the round. Player 1 started with the gold, and so player 2 followed it, but players 3 and 4 could not follow and couldn't play a trump card. You'll see that the sum of our cards equal 9, so that's under 15, so it's kind of standard trick taking. Okay, any trump cards? Nope. Okay, so highest card that is on suit wins, which is this one right here. But they don't take all of these cards. They take the one with the lowest value, which in this instance could be this one or this one because it's 0. Now in this instance, because there's 2 that are the lowest value, this player would get to choose which one they take. So in this case, maybe they'll take this one and put it in their pile. The rest would go to the discards. Now let's say on the next hand that the starting player leads with a 5 of gold. So then the next player has a trump, so they play that, which is nice. But then because this is a must follow, the next player needs to play gold, and unfortunately for them, the only gold that they have in their hand is a 6. So they play this. But now our total is 5 plus 7 is 12 plus 6 is 18. So the trick is over now. This person has made the cauldron bust. So they take it, but because they made it bust, they need to take the highest card, which in this case is this 7. The 4th player won't play anything at all this trick. Finally, the third thing that can happen is, let's say the starting player plays a 5, the next player plays a 6, so now we're at 11, and the third player gets to play a 4, making us equal exactly 15 as a sum on the table. Again, the trick ends early. This player would win, and they get to choose which card on the table they pick. Now, why are we taking cards? Why are we choosing one card over another? Well, that's because at the end of 3 rounds, whoever is the closest to 15 or hits exactly 15 without going over wins. If you're over 15, you're out. It's like the Price is Right rules. But that begs a question, wait, what happens if I get to 16 total points from the cards that I take in the middle of the game? Aren't I just out? What's the point of me even continuing to play? But that's where the other slight little hook comes in, because this game has a little bit, just a little bit, of set collection. You see, at the end of the game, if you've collected one of each color card in this game, you can choose, you don't have to, but you can choose to discard one of your cards. So in this instance, my total is actually 17 right here. But because I've collected one of each color, that means I get to discard one of these things, which means, okay, I'm at 17. I think I want to get rid of this 4. So now I'm actually only scoring this, meaning that I went from out to now I have 13 points. Now that's how to play Cauldron 15 at its most basic thing. 3, 4, and 5 are all going to be played with that set of rules. The 2-player version is just a little bit different in that the cards that you don't deal out will form the deck. The deck will be the starting player for each turn. So at the beginning of each turn, you'll flip over the top card. That's going to be the lead card for that trick. Then each trick is going to go in a different direction. So the first time it might go clockwise, and then the next trick will go counterclockwise, then clockwise, counterclockwise. But every time, this is going to be the start of the trick. That's the only difference between the 2-player and the 3, 4, 5-player game. One just slight caveat on these rules is that this is from the original Japanese edition of the game. 99% of the English rules and the Japanese rules are the same, the only difference being how many cards you deal out to people each round. The English edition says that you should deal out 5 cards after the first round, but the Japanese edition doesn't. Especially in the 2-player version, it says to deal out 8 cards each round. So that's going to be a slight difference. If you want to take a look at that, you can play either way. We have tried it out in both ways, and both ways work perfectly fine. So it's up to you. But with that out of the way, let me get this cleaned up a little bit, and then I'm going to tell you what we think of this game. Now, for some of you who have played a lot of trick-taking games, it might be ringing some familiarity bells, at least in theory, with Taiki Shinzawa's American Bookshop, a game in which you're doing a little bit of set collection. There's a value that you might be going over and you might not want to. And for some of you that are like me, that love American Bookshop, you'll go, ooh, nice, another one that's like that. And for some of you like Suma-chan, who really hated American Bookshop, you're going, oh no, I don't want that. Well, let me put that to rest really quickly. They are nothing alike in practice. There's only really one more thing I'm going to say about that, because it's not really that useful to compare the two games other than telling you that it might sound similar, but it's not. Cauldron 15 actually made me realize how much American Bookshop actually had going on. How much you actually had to understand and be okay with the punishing nature of the game. So let's just put that away, because I just want to talk about Cauldron 15. What Cauldron 15 has for it is this development. It actually grows with you and turns into a different game the more you learn about trick-taking. So let's start with this end of the spectrum, the brand new to trick-taking, the not really familiar with trick-taking audience. Something that Cauldron 15 made me think about to an extent that I hadn't really previously thought about it, and maybe that's on me for doing that, is the extent in which players, when I'm introducing them to trick-taking, there is always this kind of, I want to say residue, but this partial not understanding of why you might do something in the trick-taking game. So there's always something that's kind of this really abstracted out concept. Okay, why wouldn't I play this card here? I don't really understand why you would play a 4 over a 2 in this instance. Or why would you play a 7 here? Why, if you could have won with a 7 here, why didn't you play that 7? There's always that kind of thing, and you'll be like, okay, you'll start getting it after a while why I didn't play that 7. There's always that kind of abstraction out to it, and it's not an intellect thing or anything like that. It's just that some trick-taking concepts are just really abstract until you've played a lot of them and understand what's going on. Cauldron 15 puts the goals so front and center and makes it so easy to understand how to accomplish those goals that people start doing trick-taking strategies on their own by accident. And what I mean by that, let's take the set collection part, where you are trying to collect one card of each color, okay? That is an easy to understand aspect of the game, right? This lifesaver mechanism, if you will. So we've had players where they go, okay, I've already won a purple, so I'm going to make sure I try to get rid of the purple in my hand so that now I can play other colors and try to win other colors because I don't need purple anymore. Congratulations, you just voided your hand. That is something that bridge players have been doing for a very long time. You didn't know that that's what you did. You didn't know that that's what it was called, but that is exactly what you just did. And that is something that then I don't have to teach, right? I don't have to share strategy. And that is great in an introductory game. The less that I have to teach and the more other players can self-discover on their own, the better it works. It makes it feel better for me because I don't have to sit there and hold their hand, but it also feels better for them because they figured it out themselves. Are they gonna know what a slough is, what a void is? Probably not at the end of this game, but they might know how to do it, and that's something. And then as you grow with this game, as you start to evolve with this game, and I'm talking now about the other end of the spectrum, is this game something for people who have played trick-taking games before? And also, is this a game that keeps with somebody who maybe didn't know trick-taking, now is comfortable with trick-taking, or at least has played enough of this game to understand this game itself? Where are we with this people? Is it worth it for these people over here? And it is also a yes, because this game changes with you, and it changes with the players as well. Because what ends up happening is, I think the first couple of games that you play, you will be very focused on your score pile, making sure you don't bust, right? You're very self-centered almost. But as you get more comfortable with the game, or if you're already very familiar with trick-taking, you're familiar with knowing how many tricks that you've gathered and making sure that you're keeping track of that, right? You start focusing on everybody else and making sure that not only are you doing good, but everybody else is doing very badly. You're going to start to develop these skills in which you are good at playing cards that might benefit you, but definitely hurts somebody else. Oh, that person over there is at a 14. I could try giving them this 7, but you know what would be even better is if I gave them a 3 and a 4, because then if they get the set collection and they can discard one of those cards, they're still over 15 either way. That kind of strategy starts developing in your head and you start to get comfortable with that. And it changes the game into a kind of like multiplayer solitaire, just focusing on you, to this multiplayer interactive chaos. And I think now is then a great time to talk about how player count affects this game. As you can see, the box says that this game plays 2 to 5 players. And I'm sorry, when I see that a trick taker says it plays 2 to 5 players, I turn into kind of kombucha girl meme where I'm just kind of like, right? I don't think I could do that very well, but that was my attempt at it. And so from now on, I think in our videos, I'm going to talk about something that I'm going to call the Jurassic Park principle.
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could that they didn't stop to think if they should.
Exactly. Just because you can play it at certain player counts definitely doesn't mean that you should. And this game plays at 2, 3, 4, and 5. Well, I can definitely tell you that we recommend it at 3 of those player counts, for sure. Let's start at 4, shall we? The 4 player count feels like the center, the balance point, if you will. It has enough of the chaos where sometimes it might not make it around to you. Sometimes you can make people bust really nicely or hit exactly 15. And so maybe at the end of the round, you might have 1 or 2 players who weren't able to play 1 or 2 cards, but for the most part, it's not egregious by any stretch. You're still able to play the cards that you want to play and get the cards to your score pile that you are at least trying to. If we push it a little bit further, we get to the 5 player count, and 5 feels like absolute pandemonium. 5 is the most chaotic, it is the most funny. 5 feels a lot more like you're trying to make people bust. Tries to focus in on being aggressive with other players. And there's also this weird thing in turn order where turn order starts to matter a little bit. Because if you are sitting in that 3 or 4 spot, or especially that 5 spot, the other players can absolutely screw you over. By the time it gets to you, the other players might have very successfully positioned it, so it is already at 14. So unless you have a 1 in your hand or a 0 left over, do you want to give it to it? But then you're definitely not winning that trick, right? So then you're going to have it happen again where somebody else on the other side of the table is probably going to win that trick. It starts to be very much about where you are at the table. And that's that thing that chaos really brings, this unpredictability that comes in, and that is way there at 5. So far we have an absolutely balanced game at 4. We have a very chaotic game at 5. Now let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum and go from chaos to zen. A two-player game takes about 7 to 10 minutes, and it's pretty laid-back experience. There is a little bit of aggression there. It doesn't completely get rid of it because you do want the other player to bust, but a lot of the time, the two-player game feels like you're in a lot more control over your own destiny, if you will. If you bust, it was probably because you did something wrong. Suma-chan has beaten me in every game of this because I am much more apt to push my luck with this, to try to get close, to end up at 14. I should know by now that she will take that opportunity to try to make me bust. But the two-player game is a lot more controlled in the sense that if you don't want to make the other player do that, you don't have to. So it almost feels like a way in which you can introduce this to somebody, or you can play the two-player game with kids and make it so that they don't bust, right? There's a lot more control into. So those are just kind of the opposite things. So now we have balance at 4, chaos at 5, zen at 2. Now we're sitting here at 3. And 3 just feels like this awkward in-between, where it's not quite chaotic enough to be fun, but it's not laid back enough either. It just kind of feels like this awkward third wheel that's playing in a game that doesn't quite match. Because the third player adds a little bit of unpredictability, but it doesn't really jive with the rest of it. Actually, when Suma-chan and I play the two-player variant and we play with that deck, we actually make the deck be the third player. And we actually have to beat both each other and that deck. And we have fun with it. But there's that consistency there, right? Having that actually be a person actually lowers the amount of fun there. There's not really busting or killing anybody, so there's not that really chaotic fun aspect to it. And then you also have, there's too much unpredictability to be a laid-back experience. So it's kind of this weird in-between. So even though this game can kind of be these two different adjectives and both work, the 3 ends up just feeling like it got partially here and partially here, but because it's not actually good at either one of those things, it ends up just being bleh. So that means that its best player counts are at 2, 4, and 5. But those are actually not really equal to each other. 4 and 5 are where this game shine the brightest. I think that it is where all of the mechanics and mechanisms and goals of the game really come out and really work with each other the most. You get every aspect of the game that the designer intended it to have. 2 is still good, definitely better than 3. So I think this is actually a game that if you want to buy it, and we'll get to our conclusion just in a bit, you get it for if you want to play it at 4 and 5. And then if you already have it for these player counts and you want to play a game when you're only at 2 players, then you go, actually, you know what? I don't mind playing this at 4 or 5. It's not like Planet A to Z, which we covered a couple weeks ago, which is I refuse to play that at 2. This game is yeah, let's play it at 2. It's actually a pretty enjoyable time. I didn't buy it to play it too, but it works. So I think that's where that kind of falls. I think I rambled on a little bit too long for the gameplay, so I'm going to try to get over some of the rest of our points a little bit quicker. First of all, the art and components. The art looks like this. They're little witches, and they have little flavor text that are in Japanese if you want to read that. I think the art is okay. I'm not super enamored by it, and Suma-chan did not like it whatsoever, but beauty's in the eye of the beholder, whatever. But what I'm actually really happy with, that we both commented on, is that the cards are of really good quality. For a Dojin game, that's something that I don't really expect, but I am very pleasantly surprised when it turns up. They are just a little bit small, so sleeving this might be a little bit weird. So just a heads up on that. But it better be good quality, because when I bought this was close to $30 at Yellow Submarine. Now, I think that was mostly because it was out of print at the time, and rumors are that they're going to a much bigger print run now. They just did a print run for the Tokyo Game Market, and now it's going back into a full print run, so this should be more available for people at what should be closer to its original retail price, which is 2,000 yen, which is about 17 or 18 US dollars. It's a lot better at that price. Colorblind wise, you don't have to be able to see the color. They do have symbols on the top corner, so I really like that. This is colorblind friendly. But let's also talk about the accessibility and availability to you not being in Japan. So far, I haven't seen Boldogay or any of the main sites bring this back up, but I think that's just because they're getting stock in from this new print run. So it's going to kind of be up to that. So it's kind of hard for me to tell you one way or the other how available this is going to be, because I'm only basing it off of rumors at this point. But know that if this is a game that you're looking for, it should be more available soon. So do we recommend importing this? I think we do. we're going to give it 1 star. It's not an essential in your collection by any means, but I think it is really good at what it does. I think it fills the same spot on the shelf as Boast or Nothing, a game we talked about in our 5 introductory Trick Taker videos. It is a game that is both light enough and easy to teach enough to play with people who are new to Trick Takers, but also has enough going on with it that is also interesting for people who have played lots of Trick Takers and are very familiar with the concepts. It's a game that can both develop with you, but also turn into a completely different game based on how many players you are playing with. You want a Zen-like experience, go and play it at 2. Do you want an absolute chaotic thing? Then play it at 5. Do you want the perfect balance point where you're just getting a little bit the best of both worlds? Then play it at 4. It's a game that I was worried about I would get tired of after 5 or 10 plays because it just doesn't seem like there's a whole lot there in the rulebook, but after playing it and playing it at different player counts, I am still excited to play this one again. So maybe I didn't get my wish that it was great at 2, 3, and 4, but 2, 4, and 5, not bad. Oh, you know what? I think I used diet frogs and not regular frogs. That's why it was like close, but okay. Thank you so much for watching today. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe below. It really helps people find the channel. As well, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Thanks again for watching. Arigatou gozaimashita. Until next time, じゃあね. Okay, no, I think.